Good evening, everyone. Welcome to LFC Transfer Room. I'm here joined by Drew and Colin to react after another Reds win. Maybe not another, but the first one after what happened last week that we're not going to talk about right now. But it's good to be back on track. It's good to win. I thought it was a bit tougher than we've expected it to be. Maybe that's just me, but Burnley did actually put up quite the performance as well. Um, don't forget to please like, subscribe, make sure to comment as well. Leave your thoughts on the match, and we would love to start a conversation and have everyone's thoughts in the comments as well. So yeah, we're just gonna get into it, and I'm gonna ask Drew, what did you think of the game?
For me, it was just get it over the line, get the 3 points. I think, especially once you heard that rumor around the flu going around camp, I was like, oh God, like, let's see who's hit by this. And turned out, was it Allison and Gomez were the ones that were missing from the squad. I think both probably would have started, but Kwanzaa, had a decent game. Kelleher had a big game for us, so they stepped up at the end of the day. And for me, chop change squad too, with like Endo coming back in. And is really just getting the 3 points at the end of the day. So it was a bit scrappy for a while, really slow start from Liverpool, but turned up the gears enough to get the 3 points, and that's what counts for me at this point.
Yeah, that's what I meant by expecting maybe a bit of a more comfortable win. It was obviously a bit nervy at times, especially maybe up until the last 15 really. But yeah, it's obviously good to get the win because that's what we needed to get back on track, and we're gonna have a pretty busy schedule ahead, but we're gonna get there as well. Colin, what did you think of the match?
Yeah, not the prettiest, but a very professional win. Um, and sometimes those are the ones you need the most. Um, it's always great to look incredible and to, really dominate a team. Um,
Just muted
Yeah.
yourself, Colin.
that's weird. So many times you're gonna have really tough days against an opponent who's up for it, and I think uh, winning a game where you're not playing your best, I think is really impressive as well. So we love a win any way we get it, and just happy to get the 3 points and move back into first.
Yeah, would have hoped that maybe we'd stay there, even on the same number of matches played as City, but obviously they don't seem to drop points anytime soon. So yeah, make sure to please like and subscribe. Leave your comments as well. I'm seeing today is a bit of a more your people are a bit more, what's the term? They're in the US, chill. So make sure to leave your comments as well, and hear your thoughts on the match as well. Um, Maybe an interesting topic that was maybe you've seen on social media at halftime, maybe after the first half, was that Trent Alexander-Arnold has now become the defender with the most assists in the Premier League, in Premier League history, actually. So, 25 years of age, still in his prime, or maybe not even there. We don't know. At this point, we don't even know his ceiling anymore. Uh, Drew, what do you make of that stat, particularly him being 25 and already being the player with the most assists? And where do you think he can end up for us?
I mean, it's like he's living the dream. I mean, homegrown Scouser going through the side as young as he did, and I think that's really it. The fact that he got cemented into the side as young as he did, and the style of football that we played, it was it was coming. Like, look at Andy Robertson; he's right up there. I'm sure he's only like a assist or two behind Trent at this point. And will probably look to take over Trent if Trent's little injury from today's match is more than just a precaution. But back to Trent, he's just been phenomenal for us moving forward. And, he gets the criticism for defense, but and sometimes he does get caught out. But his career thus far at 25 years old, like you said, Mihai, speaks for itself. The stats and the achievements that he's had at this age, and like you said, we don't even know if this is his peak yet. So It's just a very impressive feat, and he continues to put up numbers, much like Salah, but in the assist categories from defense, and very impressive. He's leaving a legacy and making a right back a very attractive position and a very important position for football.
Yep. I do agree, and we've talked about Trent and his criticism that he gets online, especially, and yeah, it's one of the things that at this point we I don't even know what to say, because for a player that offers so much going forward, I just don't see the point of maybe start nitpicking pretty much every little defensive maybe moment where he's out of position or defensive mistake or in jewel lost or anything like that. So yeah, for me, best right back in the world, and the stats are there to prove it. Colin, what do you think of Trent?
Yeah, I mean, he's continually mold breaking, a talent that maybe outside of Connor Bradley doesn't have an equal. Um, in seriousness, I don't think he does have an equal at the moment, especially when he's on, when he's maybe his most fit, not sick, or whatever the issue might have been today, and still picks up an unbelievable assist. So yeah, I mean, as someone who played right back, throughout my many years playing, I can't even fathom being able to be that influential in a game and to be able to do all of the things that he can do. Um, yeah, I mean, he's a joy to watch anytime he's in the team, and uh, yeah, just feel very lucky to be able to get to watch him on a regular basis.
Yeah, and like you said, I also used to play right back, and yeah, I remember going forward. Whenever I needed to track back, I was like, yeah, that's it. I'm not going forward anymore. There's just so much running. I needed to catch my breath until I could go and contribute to the
Yeah.
offensive part of the game as well. Yeah, it's I think we've discussed it as well on stream a few weeks back. I remember when I was with Steven. In the 2021-22 season, so when we were chasing the quadruple, um, there were basically two players in the Premier League that had the most chances created, most passes in the final third, most assists, pretty much stuff like that. It was Kevin De Bruyne and it was Trent Alexander-Arnold, and one of them is a right back who was what, 23 at the time. So yeah, it's just really, really tough to argue against him. I'm thinking that's maybe the reason everyone starts to nitpick on his defensive mistakes, let's call them, just because that's just really nothing in his game that you can maybe say that's not elite level. So yeah, okay, going forward, we're gonna discuss on another performance that we had today from Harvey Elliott now. And I think a few months back, whenever Harvey Elliott would come off the bench, we remember the matches played against Wolves, the matches against Palace as well. Whenever he came off the bench, he contributed somehow. He turned the game around, came with a lot more energy, and managed to get an assist, get involved, score even, as we remember against Palace. So once again, Harvey Elliott today coming off the bench, assisting on the second and third goal. So moment that basically helped us get back in the game and obviously win it in the end. Drew, what do you make of that cameo by Harvey Elliott again coming off the bench after maybe being a bit quieter in the last few weeks?
I think he's played a really pivotal role for us this season coming off the bench. I wasn't expecting him to be such a go-to from the bench. I thought, and I was surprised Curtis Jones really rose to prominence as well this season. And a little shout out to Curtis for dropping into right back after Trent went off. I thought he did a fine job locking it up in the back. But Harvey Elliott has really impressed and coming on late in the games and really making a difference. And it's rare to find an impact sub that you can rely on or look forward to. Or I feel like for Liverpool for so many years, our bench was not the quality of depth that we were looking for, or when we needed to go to the bench, that quality just didn't come on the pitch. So, we're kind of relying on our starting 11 for so long, and to have a player like Harvey in our squad who knows what the club needs, boyhood Liverpool fan, and shows that on the pitch every time he plays. He was absolutely instrumental for this game and many games this season for his appearances. So it's really great to have a player like him in the squad, and I was very impressed today. I think he was the reason that we were able to lock up the game later on, and the 2 assists prove it.
Yeah, I think it's obvious. Obviously, it's it's a better position to be in than what we were in the last season, when our midfield was criticized, and rightfully so. Now, obviously, with Endo coming back, he was again pretty good today, I thought. And again, we've had this. We're finally having options to come off the bench and actually improve the way we're playing. So yeah, obviously our midfield is looking a lot better, even if we're having still problems with some injuries, with as we had with Dominic and still have actually. Colin, what did you think of Elliott coming off the bench today?
I thought he was probably man of the match, which I'm sure we'll get to. I thought he was so good. Everything that he did was fast. I think we get caught in patterns when we can just be a little lethargic and a little slow, and so like when you have someone who's able to come in and impact, whether it's as a sub or from the start, but really is setting a pace like that. I think it makes such a big difference, and I think to me he has been much better off the bench than he has when starting. Um, Not to say that he's been bad when starting, but I just think he's been an outstanding, um, a really outstanding substitute. Someone who, when other teams are tired, can really exploit that, um, and really makes, essentially all the difference in the world. So I thought he's been awesome when called upon, and yeah, today was no exception to that for sure.
Yeah, that's what I meant by a super sub. Yeah, I remember when it was I thought the game today was fairly similar, or at least his performance was similar to what we've had against Palace, when again we seemed a bit lackluster, didn't really have that final pass. Maybe the runs weren't necessarily what they should have been, but there ball gets to Harvey and he gets something. It was obviously a great delivery, and obviously great from Diaz to get on the end of that on the second goal, and then obviously the third. We're gonna get to Darwin's performance as well. Okay, so speaking of performances, I'm gonna make sure to say it once again. Make sure you leave your comments there, like and subscribe, please. Get involved into the conversation and leave your thoughts on the man of the match, which I am also going to ask Drew and Colin, and maybe also give my opinion at the end. Drew, give me, let's say, 3 names, just so that I won't put you on the spot. Maybe give me 3 names, or maybe someone who's been, maybe not as obvious to everyone else, but someone who you thought had a great game today.
The obvious one, Harvey Elliott, as Colin mentioned earlier. But maybe Curtis Jones for dropping in at right back and doing a job there after Trent went off. I was kind of a little nervous to see that, but he did a great job there. So kind of understated. It wasn't necessarily needed, but just steadied the ship, and I think it's important. And then Kelleher on the back of that for just coming up with that big save in the second half to keep it Liverpool in the lead. And he had a few big moments, and he's had some shaky moments ever in the past year, but I think that was a big performance for him.
Kelleher has been criticized. I think people have this mentality now. Whenever Alisson gets injured, or whenever he's missing, people just tend to maybe overanalyze Kelleher's performances. I feel like every goal that goes in, people are like, Alisson would have saved that. Maybe it's not necessarily that way, and it doesn't really work that way. So yeah, Kelleher again today. I thought it was once he saved the 1-on-1, or twice. I don't even remember it at this time, but yeah, he was great today, and I don't think he could have done anything on that goal either. Just in case people are eager to comment. Colin, maybe give me your 3 options for man of the match.
I think Kelleher's on there. I think Elliott's on there. And I mean, despite only having 1 goal contribution, I think I'll say Darwin. I just think that Darwin is one of the more difficult players to play against, probably in the world, definitely in the Premier League. I think he's such a handful, and he shoots at such a volume that as a defender, you can't switch off, because at any point one of his 6 shots could go in. Not that they all will, as we understand that. Not that they all are going to go in, but if you switch off as a defender, then inevitably they will go in. So just forcing defenses to have to consider him for 90 minutes of a game is, it has to be absolutely awful to play against. So even only for his 1 goal, but I'll say Nunez as well.
Darwin is he's that type of a player that he always gets involved. Even if he scores, even if he doesn't, he's there. You see him somehow. Either his goals, his assists, his sitters, anything happens, Darwin's there. Darwin's involved. And again today, yeah, I thought he was actually pretty. Okay, that's not the comment I would expect. I thought today he was actually pretty quiet up until he actually scored, and then obviously missed the 1-on-1, because it's just it's a Darwin. It's just a Darwinsy moment for you. He has to whenever he scores, he has to miss as well. It's just the way it goes. At least today he didn't hit the post, so at least 13 times is enough. So maybe he'll actually stay at that for the rest of the season, hopefully. I did think Darwin had a really good game as well. I thought he was extremely involved off the right-hand side, whenever Jota basically came in the center. I thought in a lot of moments he actually, got the ball and managed to get a few crosses in as well. But unfortunately, there was no one at the end of those. I thought even in the first half, he was there, he was involved, he was fouled a lot more times than the referee actually, blown the whistle. But yeah, again, a great performance by him. Harvey Elliott again, obviously a candidate for man of the match. Kelleher maybe as well, and as Paul said in the comments, Kwanzaa was also great today. I think today he actually did have a bit of a mistake when he tried to clear a ball and it went straight into a Burnley player. It's the first time that basically Kwanzaa proved that he's human, because he's played a bit too well for his age, and for considering that he's just it's his breakthrough season basically. So yeah, again, I thought pretty good performances, but maybe with these standouts. So yeah. Okay, moving forward, what I wanted to ask you guys is, now after a bit of a tough schedule, we've had so it was Norwich, and then 3 days later it was Chelsea, and then 3 days later it was Arsenal. So we've had like quite a busy schedule again. Now we finally had a week to prepare for the Burnley game. We have another full week to prepare for the Brentford game, and then another one of those busy months is going to come. We're going to play Brentford, and then 3 days later it will be Luton, if I'm not mistaken, and then obviously the EFL Cup final. So considering all this and considering the matches that are coming, we might have Mo Salah back. Now, Jurgen said it before this match that he's maybe going to start being involved in parts of training, maybe not in full training just yet, but he could maybe make the Brentford match. Jurgen seemed to, Salah seems to think so, but Jurgen maybe would prefer it a bit later. So, Drew, what I wanted to ask you is, what do you see, or what do you expect from us, before this pretty tough schedule coming up? And what are you hoping from Szoboszlai and Trent? Salah to come back?
I wouldn't rush them. I think, Trent picking up potentially another injury. I know it was precaution taking off at halftime, and I know Paul Lindo was saying that Thiago's the glass man, which is definitely true. I think those are the kind of warning signs of pushing someone back a little too quickly. I think even Szoboszlai, felt like he was coming off an injury, and then just whatever this one lately has. So I think it's important to get these players back because of their quality and how influential they could be on games. But at the same time, can't push them because Salah out for a whole season, which hasn't happened yet, would be detrimental. I think having that leader in the team and someone who can score goals as reliably as he can isn't something that shouldn't be underlooked, even though we have been doing amazing since he's been out, minus the Arsenal game. Szoboszlai, I feel like we do have enough midfield cover, but just what he offers on the pitch, it's important to get him back as soon as possible, but with the caveat of not rushing it. And we just need to have some consistency, I think. I think the Connor Bradley, Trent kind of what happened against Arsenal was so unfortunate, what happened for Bradley and his family. And, obviously that takes precedence over football. But as far as chopping and changing, I think that's one of the worst things that can happen to a squad is not having a settled squad and knowing who your starting 11 is each week. I think one or two changes, which Klopp tends to have done over the years with midfield, that's fine. But we want a consistent starting lineup. I think that can only benefit the team, especially with the run of games coming up. I don't care how we get it done, though. We need to get 3 points. We've all been there to see Liverpool chase City, and we're going to need maximum performance from every player if we're going to challenge for the title. It's get the players back, fit it as quick as possible, get them fit, and get them ready for the team. But just get the wins, and I think the League Cup for me is probably the biggest game in the next 3-4 weeks until City, because I think getting that one cup out of the way, that guarantees the bus to the City, that guarantees the party, that guarantees Klopp getting a spotlight, and to get that weight off the shoulder of the teams would be amazing to have that for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and maybe when you look at it, you think that at least before the EFL Cup final, the matches that we're having to play in the Premier League are not so difficult. But then you saw today, as well, we thought, or maybe at least I did, it was going to be a bit more comfortable than it actually was. So now we're having Luton, who lost today and are again in a pretty serious relegation battle. We're having Brentford away, who are always have been a tough team, especially against top sides. You've seen it against City as well. They've managed to stay compact, score, and it was actually a bit of a tougher game for City than the scoreline suggests it maybe. Colin, I'm going to ask you as well. What do you think of these next few weeks coming up, and your thoughts on Mo Salah and Dominic Szoboszlai potentially coming back.
Yeah, I think that this 7-day break between today and the Brentford away could not come at a better time. Having a full week to get the guys, through this flu. I'm sure there's at least one or two of them that will still get it from here going forward. So that gives them 3 or 4 days to get it, have it, get over it, and hopefully have a day or two back in training before we have to go to this away game against Brentford. Brentford away is a tricky fixture. Thomas Frank is very, I think, for my money, one of the best managers in the Premier League. He does so much with so little, and knows how to get points off of teams that should not be losing or tying against them. So I think having a week to prepare for that is, frankly, really massive. And then obviously a very quick turnaround before Luton on the 21st, but that game is at home. And Luton are a vastly different animal between when you play at Luton versus when you play them when you're at home. And we should be able to play a team very similar to today against them, if not even slightly weaker, and still get a very good result. I think that Burnley team is, for my money, I think the Burnley team is better than that Luton team. I think because of the way that Burnley want to play, they do probably end up losing more games because they want to play really good football. They want to be more expansive. So I think that break coming, a week between now and the Brentford game, massive. Got to get a win. Have to win away there, and then Luton home is a much easier fixture, and can kind of, maybe cycle some people in for 20 or 30 minutes towards the end just to make sure their legs are fresh, before the cup final on the 25th. And that's, to your guys' point, like, we don't know if we are going to get more cup finals. I certainly hope so. I certainly think that there is a big chance that we can, but there's no guarantees on that. So I think that team, I would feel if I was Kelleher, I'd feel pretty hard done by what I'm about to say. But if it's me, I'm playing the strongest available lineup, and ensuring that we are able to secure a win against Chelsea. We've seen that we can absolutely batter them, but again, it's a final, so they'll be more up for it probably than they were, when we played them 2 weeks ago. So that I think, again, I think these next couple fixtures, I think the schedule falls pretty nicely for us, to then also have right after the cup final to have our next game to be the FA Cup, against Southampton. Like, I think the next couple weeks are not easy, but fall nicely for us to have a really good run in the next 2 weeks. So certainly looking forward to it.
Yeah, you were saying, about the Luton game, that it's going to be maybe a bit, or hopefully it's going to be a bit more comfortable than it was playing away against them away. Obviously, that game falls right in between Brentford and Chelsea, so that raises the question of maybe us, resting a few players for the FA Cup final, which obviously everyone wants to win. That probably what that means, though, is that hopefully we can get both Mo Salah and Dominic Szoboszlai back, healthy, and at a stage where you don't risk them by playing them, basically. So yeah, hopefully we get there in one piece. And an interesting stat for you that I remember since the beginning of the season is that Dominic Szoboszlai won a trophy in every season that he's played football in professionally. So hopefully he keeps that going. He said it at the beginning of the season, and that's his chance right there, the first final of the season. So yeah, it's obviously for him, but more than that, it's going to be for obviously for Jurgen, because at this point, any single trophy that he can add, is going to be massive, and we're gonna celebrate it as even more than it should be celebrated. So yeah. Okay, I'm gonna ask you guys something else that I've just I've saved it here from the comments from Paul. Paul thinks that maybe Kwanzaa and Konate should be or are our best center back pairing now. Regarding this, I actually do have a thought that I don't know if it's popular or not. I think that Virgil van Dijk, since he came in, he's been at a level where he basically demands that the other player next to him is going to maybe raise his level, or maybe overperform at times, just because he gives that maturity and maybe the certainty that you have someone next to you who can clean up your mess just in case it happens. So I'm thinking that I think if you get Van Dijk out of this starting 11, I think it's gonna decrease its confidence, or maybe the back four's ability to deal with pressing and stuff, and difficult situations. So I'm not sure I would maybe pair Kwanzaa and Konate as the first two center backs in the club. But yeah, I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think about it? Would you like to see? Would you have the confidence to start Kwanzaa and Konate over Van Dijk in, let's say, a cup final? Drew, what do you think?
In a couple years, I think for me, the argument can be made. For me, the biggest thing is the talent and the ceiling that both of them have. They could be bigger and greater than Van Dijk, especially since his injury kind of suppressed the potentials that Van Dijk could have hit in his Liverpool career. But I think you said it's like it's a bit of his presence, his leadership, his composure as well, his experience. All of that are things that Kanate and Kwanzaa, especially Kwanzaa, but despite how talented they are and how good they are right now, where they're at in their careers, I think just the composure and calmness of Van Dijk and his experience just elevates him at the top. And I'll even highlight all those qualities I just said. I'll even put for the Arsenal match and that mistake, because I think like right after it, for me, the biggest thing when you make a mistake is being able to immediately put it behind you. And not every player is able to do that. Not every player is able to make a mistake and then just be completely focused on the next part of the game. And the next games after that, I think a lot of players get kind of swallowed in that quicksand of making one mistake and then another and just getting overwhelmed. But you see Van Dijk, him and Allison afterwards, Van Dijk's like, my bad, man. And then they move forward. And then you take that into the next game. So for me, Van Dijk's ability to have that adds to his game, like that part of his character. That's what I think Kanate and Kwanzaa really need to kind of morph into them in the next 2 years, hopefully with Van Dijk at top level. Because if they can add that to their game, which I'm not saying they don't have, but just that absolute pillar of confidence and composure, they can have that in their game, then in 2 years, Kanate and Kwanzaa our starting center back pairing be absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I think it was interesting in the summer. We've discussed it, and I've said it in the summer plenty of times that we need to sign a center back, even more so when we saw Matip getting injured. But now it's funny because out of nowhere we've just found this Virgil van Dijk regen that basically seems like the exact replica of Virgil van Dijk. So obviously for him to play under him is going to be massive in his for his career as well. And kind of to add what you just said, Drew, I think maybe outside of putting that mistake behind you. It was coming, in an interview after the match and owning it and saying it was your mistake. And, that's obviously a captain thing to do. He didn't talk about, I don't know, maybe that we should have taken our chances and when it was 1-0 or anything like that. No, he just came out and said, yeah, that's my mistake. And that's obviously the leader that he is. Colin, what did you think of Paul's comment here? Do you think that maybe now in the present time we could see Kwanzaa and Konate play ahead of Virgil?
There's not a chance of that. I think the critical point, which I believe Drew alluded to, is, maybe if you were just to take, who's had the highest rated day throughout the entire season, you could make an argument for Kwanzaa Konate's best day. If you took them on their best rated day, that's the highest rated that any center back was of the year. Okay. Both of those performances that each of those players put in was next to Virgil. And I think Virgil's ability to raise the level of everybody else around him is what makes him that special. It's not just that he's a great defender, it's that he has an expectation of everybody else's performances, but without being I think overly critical, and he doesn't just like scream at people to do things. Like there's a level of communication and a level of specificity that he expects of other players around him, and I don't think that you get that same kind of aura if you're not playing Virgil. I think both Konate and Jarell are incredibly capable footballers. Based off their merit, I wouldn't have any problem in playing them against a team, let's say like Luton, or if that would have been the matchup today. Like I wouldn't have any inherent apprehensions about playing them. But if we're talking about who's going to be on the day that we need us to be our best, who are we picking? There's no chance that we don't pick Virgil. And in fact, I would be angry if we didn't. I just think that he has this level of he's so special in so many ways. He's such an exceptional player that there's no way you can kind of pass up on having him in the team unless it's by sickness, by some sort of injury, anything like that.
Yeah, and I think one of the interesting things that kind of made me realize the player that he is, I remember when he came in, and it was the winter of 2018, and I remember out of nowhere I saw Dejan Lovren becoming a way better center back than I thought he could be. So that was it happened with Joe Gomez in the following seasons as well. So I think he has that effect. I think it's as Drew said it. It's his presence. It's the kind of commanding presence that it's at the same time it demands excellence, and it also brings this calmness to the team. It's him there at the back. He has it under control, and obviously, even when Jordan Henderson was in this team, still, I thought on the pitch, when you look at it, at times you saw Virgil van Dijk being maybe, the leader of the team as well. But that's another conversation to have. Okay, well, I think that was it for today. I'm very glad to have had everyone on. Thanks for everyone who tuned in, who liked the video, who left their comments here, and make sure to also come back at 7:30 tonight UK time for the next stream, and also in the next few days, every day here at 7:30. or maybe different times after the matches as well. So good to have Colin and Drew here with me all the way from the US. And a good day to you all, and up the Reds.